All right, good morning, everyone. My name is David Feeks, and welcome to this morning's Pep Talk. Um, this is our monthly, relatively informal dive into a discrete estate planning topic. Before we get started, just a couple of Zoom things. Most of you, I'm assuming at this point in the pandemic, are quite used to Zoom. There is a chat box. If you hover at the bottom of your Zoom box, kind of at the bottom of that black area, you'll notice what looks like a thought bubble. It says chat. Open that up for a second. And number one, let me know that you can hear me by typing Y in the chat. So just give me a Y. Just let me know that everybody can hear me. Okay, Michael, thanks. David, Lily, Susan, thank you. And I know that our moderators posed a question at the beginning. So very quickly, if you can just give me a sense of who you are, whether you have young kids, whether you're an empty nester. So go ahead and type YC in the chat if you've got young kids or kids under the age of 18. Go ahead and type EN in the chat if you're an empty nester. You've got all adult children, and that'll give me a little bit of a sense of who we have on the call here. And okay, we got some parents of young kids. We've got an empty nester here on the call. Good. So we've got a good mix of everybody. Everybody is muted. We are recording, and I want to keep the sound quality up and background noise down. So we have muted everyone. You're welcome to turn on your cameras if you'd like to. I can see everybody's faces. You're welcome to keep your cameras off if you would prefer not to show your face, or if there's something going on in your background you would rather the rest of the group not see. But that is fine. Feel free to use the chat as a way to ask questions as we go through. So whatever questions are showing up in the chat, we'll save those to the end. But just know that the moderator will go through and will grab those questions and make sure that you've got those questions answered at the end. So feel free to pose them as they occur to you, and we'll catch up to them at the end. We'll be on for about 20 minutes, I would say. Could be less. And again, we're recording, and we'll send all of you a recording afterwards, along with some resources that I will share with you at the end and talk about at the end. So I encourage you to stay with us all the way through to the end. So again, my name is David Feeks. I'm the founder of the Parents Estate Planning Law Firm in Acton. Our firm is focused on estate planning. It's what we do all day, every day. Once a month, we do these pep talks on Zoom, as I said, to dive into a discrete estate planning topic in kind of an informal way. Today's topic is do-it-yourself estate planning. And this is something that's been coming up over and over again. And I think obviously it has a lot to do with the time that we're in. We have all been home a lot for the last 3 months or so. We've had time on our hands. There are things we haven't been doing, which has given us time to think about and ponder doing other things. And I recognize that when everybody's home and people aren't traveling on the weekends, and there are no activities that we would like to be out doing, our thoughts turn to what can we get done. And I know for a lot of people, estate planning might be one of those things that you're pondering. Is this something I could do myself, or is it something I really need to work with a professional with an estate planning attorney with? And I'm going to just acknowledge right up front that the do-it-yourself concept around everything right now is very, very appealing. It's something that my wife Paula and I have done ourselves, and I'm going to tell you a story about that and how that relates to do-it-yourself estate planning in just a bit. So I recognize, we're trying, we got time to fill. We're figuring out, hey, what can I get done that I used to pay somebody to do for me? So I recognize that that's out there. We'll talk about what you can do in terms of do-it-yourself estate planning. We'll talk about what you shouldn't attempt in do-it-yourself estate planning, and why, if you do try to put your own estate plan together, what to be thinking about, but also where are the pitfalls? Where can it go wrong? Where can it go off the rails? And quite honestly, there's lots of places where it could go off the rails. But I wanted to start with the story of my wife, the do-it-yourself project that my wife and I undertook. All right, so we've got time. We're not going anywhere on the weekends, and usually we have our landscaper come in and do all of the edging, all of our mulch, kind of get the yard ready for the spring, because we're running a business, we're busy, we don't have a lot of time, and the time we have on the weekends we'd like to use for other things rather than carting around 8 to 10 yards of mulch. So anyway, this year, Paula said to me, we got time. Why don't we do our own landscaping? So, we know what it costs to have the landscaping company come and do the mulch and the edging and the cleanup. And the cleanup we had them do anyway. So we figured, okay, the edging and the mulch, we can do that. No problem. Mulch is easy. But also we wanted to do some work on the yard, because there's lots of spots in the yard where tree roots have, where there's been some settling and their tree roots are exposed, and the landscape guys are starting to hack at the roots with the blades of the lawnmower. So we wanted to kind of fill in, get everything smoothed out, and reseed. So we called the company that we use locally. They do a lot of tree work for us, and they do a lot of hydroseeding. So we called and got a quote for getting 6 yards of loam spread and to get some hydroseeding done. So, quote came back and we looked at it, and Paula said, you know what, we got time. We could do this ourselves. And so before we knew it, there were 6 yards of topsoil in the driveway. And if you think 6 yards of topsoil doesn't sound like a lot, wait till you get 6 yards of topsoil dropped in your driveway. It pretty much covered, I would say, 3/4 of the width of our double wide driveway. It's about, 3-4 feet high. It's this massive mound, essentially, of dirt. Okay, so immediately in this do-it-yourself project, I'm starting to think, okay, this sounded good when I was thinking about it, but now that I'm looking at this pile of dirt in my driveway, this maybe is not, I'm starting to have some second thoughts about whether or not this is the right idea. But anyway, we're going to do it. We enlisted our 19-year-old daughter to help in this project, a little begrudgingly, but nonetheless, she said she'd help. All right, so we start to get in. And the thing about topsoil is that it weighs a lot more than mulch. So 8 yards of mulch was pretty easy to cart around and get spread out. But topsoil weighs about 10 times more. Maybe, I don't know, if there's an engineer on the call, you can tell me the relative weight of topsoil to mulch. But anyway, we start to move it around. We're getting it spread out. And so what turns out is that the project is going to end up being longer than we thought. If we hired the landscaper, the whole thing would have been done in a day. Spread, dropped, spread, hydroseeded, boom, and we'd have grass, 10 days later. But here we're starting to work on it. In the end, it takes us 3 different weekends to make a dent. I've thrown my back out twice. Our 19-year-old daughter is complaining the whole way about having to be involved in this project. But finally, the dirt pile is gone. Now it's time to start seeding. And so I start seeding. Every day I got to go out there and water twice a day. And in the end, about 50% of the seed germinates. So I end up with a project that takes basically 3 weeks to complete, that physically hurts me. I'm sweating and grunting the whole time. Daughter is mad, wife is frustrated, and I only get 50% of the seed to germinate. Whereas if I just paid somebody to come and do it, it would have been done in 1 day, and I would have had a much better final project. So do-it-yourself estate planning is, most do-it-yourself projects are most likely going to end up that way. Big projects are going to end up that way. In your head, it sounds like, okay, this is reasonable. I can do this. I know there's resources on the internet that are going to help me to do this. But in the end, in our topsoil project, I just said I would have gladly paid these people to do it. And if we ever have to do it we have to do this again, make sure that we're not doing this ourselves. So, and next year again, we'll let the landscapers come back and even do the edging and the mulch, which was not nearly that hard. That way, time is freed up for me and Paula and our family to do things that we want to do more, to make better uses of our time. And there's lots of things that we would rather trade money to get that time back. And I know in working with clients for years and years that I've discovered that about our clients as well. But so do-it-yourself estate planning. there's resources out there. So we recognize that there is, LegalZoom, there's Quick and Willmaker, there's the books on trusts. Susie Orman has a book on trusts. So there's resources out there. Can you do it? Yeah, if you're reasonably intelligent and you have the time and the inclination to get it done, it can be done. But again, this is the thing I've discovered about our clients over the years, who tend to be, professional, kids, lots of activities, that they may not have the time and the inclination to get it done. And here's the other thing about do-it-yourself estate planning is that there's lots of ways for it to go wrong. And here's the catch, and kind of the insidious catch, is that you don't always know. And in fact, most often you will not know where it's gone wrong. So can you create your own will? Can you create your own trust? Can you create your own incapacity documents? Yes, I acknowledge the resources are out there to do it. But how can things go wrong? I think it's important for you to know before you start or decide whether or not you're going to embark on this project, where can it go wrong? So let's talk about where it can go wrong. Number one, an online resource can't have an intelligent conversation with you about what's important to you, and how to get from point A to point B, how to get from where you are right now and what's going to happen to your assets and what's going to happen to your kids if something happens to you and what's going to happen if you become incapacitated, to where you want to be. Online, do-it-yourself assumes that you're going to figure, you are going to figure out, here's where I am, and get clarity yourself around here's where I am and what's going to happen. And it assumes that you can figure out clearly where you want to be instead. But here's the reality. Most people don't know what they don't know. So it is probably far more difficult for you to try and figure out where you want to be without some help, without some guidance, without somebody who's walked where you're about to walk and has seen just about everything. And by the way, I say that as a current empty nester and as obviously as a parent who has had young children. I've been through this personally. I've developed a plan when I recognized where the gaps and the pitfalls were for my own children when they were still young and in the care of a babysitter on a regular basis. I figured out and seen what changes as my kids grow older and become, teenagers, and then become young adults, and then become adults who don't need guardians anymore. But I've seen how our plan has changed. And without somebody to guide you through that, you're almost guaranteed to miss things that someone could help you to point out. Sometimes you just need a guide to show you, hey, you want to go here, but you don't want to go there. And you want to think about this, but don't forget that, because this is something that could pop up as well. And these are not things that we're likely to think of ourselves as we do it-yourself projects, because we are not the pros in these projects. That's the very nature of do-it-yourself. If I am doing the electrical work in my house, I don't know what I don't know. If I'm going to do the plumbing in my house, again, don't know what I don't know. And there's things I'm not going to think about that a licensed electrician and an experienced electrician or an experienced plumber could point out to me to say, hey, don't forget this, because if you don't do it this way, you're going to end up having a problem in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years as things start to degrade. So, number one, if you don't have a guide can obviously help you to think about things that you're not thinking about yourself. And a guide can provide you with that advice that you need when you get to a decision point. Should I go down this path or should I go down that path? It's very often helpful to have somebody who can tell you, okay, here's the pros and cons of going down this path, and here's the pros and cons of going down that path, and then you can make an informed and intelligent decision about which path makes sense for you and for your family. A do-it-yourself plan is guaranteed to miss what I would call intangibles. And this is a piece that even most traditional estate planners miss a lot, but something that we've built into all the planning that we've done in our office. Because what you'll get with do-it-yourself estate planning is a set of documents. You will get pages of paper with words printed on it, you will get documents, and that's all you'll get. But the documents miss what I would call that intangible part of the legacy that we want to leave to our kids and to our families and really to the world. Things like who are we and what's important to us, what are the stories or memories or guidance or advice I want to leave to my kids. I want to leave to the guardians who are taking care of my kids if they're young. I want to leave to the person who's managing the money for my kids. All of those things that are unique to you that would otherwise be lost forever if anything ever happened to you. Do-it-yourself estate planning isn't going to help you to capture that. And experience tells me you're very unlikely to do that yourself if you're putting together a do-it-yourself plan. I've discovered that this is so important, and I've discovered it's so important to all of our clients that we in our office have just built it into all of the planning levels that are available. If you hire us, you're going to have the opportunity to do a recorded interview after your plan is in place so that those intangibles can get captured. And again, the other thing you miss with do-it-yourself is someone to help you think things through, help you to think, especially if you're the parent of young kids and you've got to name guardians for your kids. The most common reason I hear when people come into our office who haven't done the planning yet, and the most common reason they give that for not having done the planning, the reason they put it off and put it off and put it off is not because they're bad people. It's not because they're procrastinators at heart. It's because they've had difficulty agreeing or coming to the decision about who they want to take care of their young kids, who they want to name as guardians. And so, they keep butting up against a wall and they can't see any way through it or around it. But I can always help prospective clients see a way around it or through it because I've had the experience. All the attorneys in our office have had the experience. Our entire team has had the experience of leading clients through this over and over and over again. And at this point, at least in my career, there's very little you could show up on my doorstep and tell me that I haven't seen before and haven't helped somebody through. So it's really having someone to help you think things through, and that's just something you're not going to get out of do-it-yourself estate planning. There's just nobody at the other end of the line to help you. And I know that LegalZoom is starting to offer, let us connect you with an attorney in your community, but those are not the best estate planning attorneys. Let me tell you that. If they were the best estate planning attorneys, they would have no need to be on call for LegalZoom. So just know that you're even if they're going to connect you to somebody, you're going to get connected to somebody probably without very much experience, who's young, who's just trying to get their own law firm started. And you may not want your family to be at the whim of, the learning curve of a new attorney. So as I said with my topsoil story, in the end, I wished, and I kept saying this all the way through it, I knew it right at the end of the first day we were working on this project. I was like, we should have just hired, the landscape guys to come and do this. It would have turned out better. It would have been easier. I would have recovered more in time, in the value of my time, than I would have paid them to do the job. But live and learn. I won't make that mistake again. The other thing, honestly, that I thought was I'd done this project before when my wife and I bought our very first house in Littleton, and we cut down about 6 or 7 pine trees that ring the front yard and have the stumps ground, and then I had to fill in with topsoil and reseed. But then I was 25 years younger, and I kept in my head, I'm like, yeah, I've done this job, I can do this job. But now I'm 25 years older and I don't have quite the same physical stamina that I had when I was, in my early 30s. So if you're the parent of young kids, this is the thing so let's talk about what can you do and what should you never do. I would say you should really not try to name guardians for your minor children on your own. There's just too many places where you're going to miss things. I know you're going to miss things. I know what LegalZoom does. I know what their documents look like. I know what the Quicken Will Maker documents look like. I know what the interview says and asks you, and I just know that if you've got young kids, the guardianship piece is going to be riddled with holes. You're going to have a leaky bucket of a plan when you walk out on the other end. And I'm not being alarmist when I say that, although it may alarm you to hear me say that. It's because I know it. I've been through this. As I said, I've got young kids. I had to figure out on my own where all the gaps were in traditional estate planning. And there were lots of them, even among traditional estate planning lawyers who did this, never mind do it yourself. And the first thing I did was fix and plug all of those gaps for my own kids. And then I built that into the plans of all of our clients. And it's one of the reasons that we're out in the community teaching young parents often, so that you know what to be thinking about. So do-it-yourself plans are not going to help you to fully name long-term guardians. They're just going to help you with one small aspect of it, but they're going to miss two other huge aspects of what could go wrong. And if either of those other aspects happens to you or to your family, your kids are going to be potentially in a world of hurt, and things are going to happen that you probably don't want to happen. So that's number one. I wouldn't do it if I've got young kids. You know, and that would be, I would say, would be the one ironclad rule that I would say is there. You know, what can you do on your own? Well, there's lots of things you can do on your own. There's lots of do-it-yourself things you can do that don't involve paying for LegalZoom or Quicken Willmaker or trying to do the documents or the plan itself. You can think about who you want to take care of your kids if you've got young kids. You can have that conversation with your spouse if you're married. You guys can develop the plan, the conceptual plan. Here's who we want. Here's our primary. Here's a backup in case something happens to our primary. So you can come up with that conceptual plan. You can have the conversations with the people that you're thinking about so that you know, yes or no, that they are going to buy into this plan, that they want to be involved, they are willing to take on that role and responsibility. And you can do that for all of the people that are playing a role in your plan. You could be thinking about who you want so that if you go to an estate planning attorney, you're ready to go. You've already thought these things through. You're ready to make those decisions. You can think about and start to create a conceptual plan around how you want your kids to get access to your assets. If they're young, how old do they have to be? If they're already adults, are they old enough, and under what circumstances? You can start to think about things like, you know, what if they were to get sued as adults? Would I want to protect that money? What if they got married and divorced? Would I want to protect that money? So you can start to think about and decide certain things, you know, from a concept standpoint. You can be thinking about who you want to step in and make decisions for you if you're incapacitated. You can be thinking about what's most important to you that you would want to preserve that's non-financial, you know, beyond your house, beyond your bank accounts and your life insurance and your retirement accounts. What's important to me? What's important to us? And what do we want? How much of that do we want to pass on to our kids, to our families? So you can really start to do a lot of the work yourself, even if you're going to hire an attorney to help you create the formal plan in the end. So yeah, you can do all those things. Two other things really about do it yourself. Number one, I know it sounds really tempting to save money up front, but that's what you're doing. You're saving money up front and then potentially costing your family much, much more on the other end. Let's say you save a couple $1,000s on do-it-yourself. Let's say you went LegalZoom instead of hiring an estate planning attorney. You save yourself a couple $1,000, but you don't understand fully the ramifications of how you're setting up that LegalZoom plan, and your family ends up going through a long, drawn-out, expensive probate process when you die that you would have rather they avoided, but you didn't really understand how to get to that place of helping them avoid it because LegalZoom wasn't helping you understand that, or what to do after that plan was in place to make sure that probate was avoided. So now you've saved a few $1,000s up front, and you've cost your family tens of thousands of dollars if you die because they are stuck in a process that you really wanted them to avoid in the first place. So, you know, save a little money now, pay a lot later, you know, that's one of the things that can happen. The other really important thing that can happen, especially in Massachusetts, is we have a relatively low, some would say very low, estate tax threshold. Kicks in at $1 million. And for most people, that you're probably there or over once you count in life insurance. So the other mistake people make with do-it-yourself is they don't account for that potential estate tax. So again, save a couple $1,000s now, cost your family, again, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars more when you die because you missed opportunities to eliminate or minimize that estate tax with good planning. And again, that's something that really only a professional can help you to, number one, understand, number two, plan for, and create a plan that helps to keep your hard-earned money in your family and not have it go out to the Department of Revenue in Massachusetts if you die in Massachusetts. And then the last thing that often gets missed in do-it-yourself, and really, there's really no opportunity there, it's kind of like advice, and that is what happens when you die. If your family needs someone to turn to and you've done your plan on LegalZoom, your family's not going to be able to turn to LegalZoom to point them in the direction of what do we do now? What has to happen now? I mean, one of the things that makes me really proud of the firm that we've built here, and it's not just me, it's our whole team and everything that everybody has contributed in building, is that we've created a resource not only for our clients while they're still living, that they know that they can ask us questions, that they know that they can call us up if they've got a potential problem and they want to bounce an idea off us. They know that they're going to meet with us every 3 years to keep their existing plan up to date so that it doesn't get outdated, it doesn't get stale with changing times and changing circumstances. But they also know that if anything ever happens to them, we're a resource for their family. That if you die, your family can come to us and turn to us for advice and guidance about what happens next. Obviously, they don't have to, but at least we are here as a resource for them, somebody that they can turn to, somebody who understands what you wanted in the development of your plan, somebody who helped you to develop this plan. And then we can provide them with guidance and advice about what to do moving forward and how to implement the plan that you so thoughtfully created for them. And again, that's something you're not going to get from LegalZoom. You're not going to get from Quicken Willmaker. Susie Orman is not answering your phone call when you call her. She's just not. Lovely woman, but she's not. That's not the way that she works. She is one to many, not one to one. So those are the kinds of things I want you to be thinking about. I'm not saying don't ever do it, but those are the things I want you to be thinking about as you evaluate whether it makes sense to try and go off on your own and do this, or whether it makes sense to work with a professional. All right, so I want to look and see if there's questions in the chat. Before I get to that, a couple of things. I promised you I wanted to give you some resources. On our website, there are 2 guides, one for families with young kids and one that was designed specifically for empty nesters. So if you go on to the homepage of our website, you can find those downloads. You can click on the appropriate download box and you'll get taken to a download page where you can download our Kids Protection Planning Guide if you are the parent of minor children, or our Empty Nesters Guide if you are an older client with adult children, or an older client with no children at all, or technically a younger client with no children at all. And it will help you to start to think through some of the issues that I've mentioned here, but in more detail, and to get you thinking more deeply about those. So those are on our website, and we will include links to those resources in the replay. When we email a replay of this recording out to you, we'll include links there. If, having listened to this, you're thinking to yourself, maybe I shouldn't try to do it myself, and you'd like to understand more about what working with our firm would look like and what it would entail, then I encourage you to schedule a call with our client services coordinator. Her name's Lori Darling. She's awesome. You'll love talking to her. And there should be a link that will pop up in the chat box that will allow you to go to a page where you can pre-schedule a call with Lori. About 15 minutes, she can talk to you, find out a little bit more about you, what you're trying to accomplish, how we might be able to help you accomplish that. And if we're not the right fit for you, she could even connect you with other resources that might be a better fit for you. But I would encourage you to take advantage of talking to Lori, because number one, I think you'll just like talking to her, and number two, I think she can really help you, even if it turns out we're not the right resource for you. And last thing before we get to questions, I want to remind you, if you're new, if this is the first time we've chatted, we have a webinar coming up on Saturday, this coming Saturday, June 20th at 10 a.m., in which we'll go into some of the things that I've talked about today in a little more detail, and talk, about what would happen to your kids if something happened to you. If you've got young kids, what would happen to your assets? If something happened to you, what would happen if you became incapacitated? And how you can go about crafting and creating a plan that makes sure that your kids, that your family are very well cared for and taken care of in the future, no matter what. So if you'd like to dig in a little deeper with me, that next opportunity comes this Saturday, June 20th at 10 a.m. And undoubtedly a link to register for that webinar will show up in the chat as well. So I am going to scroll back to the top of the chat and see if I can suss out the questions as they have. This is what happens when I don't check the chat as we're going through. Sorry, Deb. Let me get down to see what questions have popped up. First question: is it okay to do things a little at a time, or should I be putting everything together all at once? You can put things together piecemeal. My recommendation is, for most people, this is what I've discovered, and because Deb wanted me to be on speaker view, I don't know, Deb, if that, okay, thumbs up. Deb says, I finally gotten myself into the view she wanted all along. Deb is our moderator today. And I don't always do everything I'm supposed to do. So can you do things piecemeal? Yes. My recommendation is that you try to do everything as much as you can all at once. And the reason is very practical, is that most people, if you do something, there's a little part of your subconscious will say, hey, congratulations, you got that done. And then doing the rest of it will fall very, very low down on your to-do list, if it ever shows up at all. And I've seen this happen over and over and over and over again. It's something that happens to me. So I recommend that if you get yourself to a place where the urgency has built up enough that you're going to take care of things and get your plan in place, that you ride that urgency all the way through to the end, and you get everything done. And so generally I wouldn't recommend piecemeal, but of course you could do it. Next question: do you review documents that were created do it yourself? We already have some of this created, but I'm not sure it's complete enough now. Ellie, thanks for that question. Yes, we do review existing plans for prospective clients. If you have an existing plan, whether it's do it yourself or whether it was created by another estate planning attorney, and you think it's about time for it to be reviewed and updated, then I would schedule a call with Lori. Use that link, schedule a call with Lori, and she can talk to you more about how we do reviews of existing plans. But yes, we do that as a standalone service, although usually it leads to changes, but not always. All right, the Empty Nester's Guide, a link to that is up. How often should someone revisit these types of documents? Thank you, Meredith, for that question. I recommend at least every 3 years, and that's what we do with our existing clients, because things change. Sometimes they change very quickly, sometimes they change more slowly, and the laws change, and the laws that have an impact on your plan change. If you've got young kids, things change more quickly, and at least every 3 years. So that's how we've set the cadence for our review meetings with our existing clients. All of our existing clients have the ability to come in at least every 3 years for ongoing plan review meetings on kind of a regular basis. And that way we can catch changes as they're happening and build whatever changes we need to make into the plan to make sure the plan continues to work the way a client wants it to, even as time goes on. So yeah, at least every 3 years. This isn't something you do once, stick on a shelf, say, I got that done, now I never have to think about that again. Because again, things are changing in your life. Personally, things are changing with your assets, and things are changing with the law. David, thank you for pointing out to us that one of our links is broken on our Facebook page. We'll have somebody from our team head in there and fix that. I think I know why that exists. All right, I think I've got, okay, still going. Do we work on retainer, or do we charge for review every 3 years, or just for edits? Short answer is we just charge for edits. If you're an existing client, we don't charge for meetings. We don't charge for phone calls. So when you come in for a 3-year review, we don't charge for the review meeting. I've got a review meeting coming up in about 20 minutes. Those clients are not paying me for that review meeting. Now, if as a result of that review meeting, we recognize there are changes that need to be made to the plan, then we charge for the changes that we make. But I made a conscious decision a long time ago that I never wanted there to be a financial barrier between an existing client and talking about an issue. I didn't want you to not call me or the other attorneys on the team or the team in general and get a question answered that's important to you because you were afraid of getting a bill in the mail at the end of the month. So we do everything on a flat fee basis, no hourly billing, no surprises, no timers going in the background. And I think our clients really, really appreciate that. I think at this point, I've gotten all the questions. Deb, you can shoot me just a quick, if I've gotten them, Deb, can you just shoot me a quick thumbs up or okay, and let me know. Okay. All right, I think I got this, but it has showed up as one more.
There's one more question for you, David, right there.
That last one at the bottom?
Yep.
Review docs that were created do-it-yourself?
Please.
I thought I did this. If I didn't, here we go. Yes, we review, and we have a process in the office for reviewing existing plans, whether they were done yourself or whether they were done by another estate planning attorney. So happy to review existing plans and help you to understand what's going to happen with that existing plan, so that you can make informed and intelligent decisions about whether that's good for you or not. And again, if you would like us to review an existing plan, schedule a call with Lori Darling, our client services coordinator, and she can talk to you more about our process for doing that and how we can get you in that queue to review your existing plan and what the cost for that would be. But yes, if you're not sure you've got the right plan in place, if you're not sure it's complete, then I encourage you to get it reviewed by a professional. Again, even if it's not us, have a professional review it if you have any doubts about whether or not it's done correctly, or if it's complete, or if there are gaps. Please, please, please have a professional review it so that you can sleep better at night knowing either, yep, you've got it all covered, it's accomplishing everything that you want it to, or at least find out where those holes and where those gaps are so that you can take affirmative steps to get those gaps filled in again, so you can sleep well at night knowing you've got the right place in plan, right plan in place for your kids, for your family. All right. So it looks like we've covered everything. We took a little bit longer than I was originally anticipating. That's fine. I thank you guys for hanging in with me all the way through to the end. So again, resources are on our website: Kids Protection Planning Guide, Empty Nesters Guide. If you want to book a call with Lori, that link is there now. It might just be a clickable link. If it's not, copy and paste into the web browser of your choice and go ahead and get something scheduled. If there's something else that you would like support from us around, you can send an email to info@parentsesstateplanning.com. info@parentsesstateplanning.com, and our team will do everything we possibly can to help you, point you in the right direction, get you whatever resources you need, or connect you to the resources you need. So everybody, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate the time you took to be with us. Again, the webinar is on Saturday, this Saturday, June 20th at 10 o'clock. If you want some more detail, if you want to dig a little deeper with me on some of these issues, I encourage you to sign up for that. We're going to have some fun over there as well. But until then, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you all again very, very soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.